Saved me again. I'd have to do this all over some morning. Yeah. Well, for those of you who are new to the class, our classes are recorded, and you'll find them on YouTube. If you go to YouTube and in the search box put my name, Carl McPherson, and Prophecy, you have to put both of those in there, because if you don't, you'll end up with another Carl McPherson. Like I said, I don't know why there would be two, but there are. At any rate, mine are my website or YouTube sites under Carl McPherson Prophecy, and you'll find now 30 lessons. I've been here for almost a year. Wow, has time gone by? So, at any rate, yeah, this lesson will be recorded, and if you find anything that you forgot or missed, you can always go there and pick it up. So, we've been talking about Mystery Babylon, and what I wanted to do was to tie all of these threads that I've been weaving here recently all together. Now, my wife, who is my best critic, she tells me if I get successful or whether I'm failing at something. And one of the things that apparently wasn't clear to her, and if it wasn't clear to her, it probably wasn't clear to other people, was the story of Petrus Romanus and how this all got started. You know, we started out by talking about this prophecy of a guy named Bishop Malachi Morgay, who was an Irish bishop back in 1049, or 1149, and he had a prophecy. Came to him while he was at the Vatican. And in this prophecy, he saw that there would be 112 popes, starting from Celestine II up to the current time. The current pope that we have is the 112th pope. And he said that at the advent of this pope, that he would reign over his church, the Vatican, through troublesome times, through tribulation. And at the end of it, the city on 7 hills would be destroyed. So I threw that one in, not because it's Bible prophecy, and you know, you kind of have to put weight on these things. Some prophecies are outside the Bible, but how do you determine whether a prophecy is true or not? Well, if it comes to pass, well, Malachi had 112 popes, and on each one of them he gave a little snippet of information about them, and most of them seemed to line up, you know. And so this last pope is called Petrus Romanus. So we're going to talk about him, and I'm going to go over that again so that maybe we can tie up some loose ends. And then there was another secret called the third secret of Fatima, which was Portuguese Fatima. Fatima. Oh.
Fatima.
I like Fatima better.
I like Fatima.
It's your class.
Yeah, it can be whatever I want, right?
Whatever you want.
Whatever you want to call it. Fatima, Fatima. That was the vision of these 3 little Portuguese girls had. And Catholic Church revealed 2 of them, but the third one they never did. And snippets of it have come out, and well, we'll go over that. And then what I want to do is contrast Revelation 17 and 18 with Isaiah 47. And once we do that, we're going to connect some dots. And then I'm going to go over to Jeremiah 50 and 51, which are 2 chapters which talk exclusively about Babylon. And this is the reason why most Bible prophecy teachers will tell you that Babylon has to be rebuilt. Has to be rebuilt so it can be destroyed. Well, I'm going to try to make sense out of all of this. So, clear up Petrus Romanus. 112 popes predicted by Malachi Morgay in 1139. So from 1139 to the current time, 112 popes. The 112th pope, who is currently Pope Francis, his tenure will be completed with the following note. In extreme persecution of the Holy Roman Church, there will sit a Roman. There will sit Peter the Roman, who will nourish the sheep through many tribulations, and when they are finished, the city of 7 hills will be destroyed, and the dreadful judge will judge his people. The end. Pretty powerful prophecy there. Now, this prophecy was laid in the Vatican for about 200 or 300 years. Nobody ever bothered to do anything with it until it was just recently discovered. And when it got published, well, the Vatican didn't have time to do anything with it. And so, consequently, we have a high probability that the more recent, like the last 40 or 50 of these popes, they weren't interfered with. Now, there are a section of them right in the middle who were. And what they tried to do is take Malachi's prophecy and make it fit a candidate that apparently the Vatican wanted. And so it's pretty obvious that they were, this was interfered with. But then later on, these later popes, they weren't. And there's a lot of information that makes you believe that maybe this is a prophecy that's worth at least considering. If nothing else, the consideration is, that I see, it's the last pope. So whatever his title, whatever he does, he's the last one in this line. And now, the current pope is Pope Francis. His name is not Peter the Roman. Peter the Roman was the name that Malachi gave to this guy. Now, as I have looked it up, I thought I read that this guy, what's the pope's real name? Bergogliani or something like that. He was born, I thought, in northern Italy, when in fact he was born in, Argentina?
Argentina.
But his family was from northern Italy. So he is still a Roman, though he wasn't born there. So maybe, in one sense, he kind of qualifies as a Roman. And why Peter the Roman? Don't know. I know that the Catholic Church believes that Peter was the first pope. And of course, and they try to tie Peter together with, what was really the first pope, which didn't occur until about, when was it? 400 or 500 AD. At any rate, the way they tie that together is with a bunch of letters that were allegedly written by each one of these popes as it was passed down from Peter. And of course, what we find out in history is all of those letters, which allegedly showed the connection between Peter and the Roman Catholic Pope, they were all written by the same guy. So how is it that the same guy wrote the letters over a 300 or 400 year period? Well, we know that is fallacious. So at any rate, Petrus Romanus is the name of the last pope. His real name that he gave himself is Pope Francis. But according to Malachi Morgare, he's going to be the last one. Now, the interesting thing is this prophecy. Tribulations and that city on Saturday. Now, this is the secret of Fatima. They kept this little girl in almost isolation. Well, she's not a little girl anymore. She's an old woman, and I think she may have already died. But the Catholic Church never let this one out. They were going to in the year 2000, and then they kept trying to change it. And I think what they were doing was I hope she would die so they could change the prophecy altogether. But the prophecy reads like this. Before reaching there, wherever there is, the Holy Father passed through a big city, half in ruins, half trembling with halting step, afflicted with pain and sorrow. He prayed for the souls of the corpses he met on his way. Having reached the top of the mountain, on his knees at the foot of a big cross, he was killed by a group of soldiers who fired bullets and arrows at him. And in the same way there died, one after the other, all of the bishops, the priests, the men and the women religious, and various lay people in different ranks and positions. Wow. If that were the prophecy against my group, I won't think I'd want it out either. But what does this all have to do with it? Well, of course, what it has to do with is the prophecy legitimate in Revelation 17 and 18 to Mystery Babylon. Mystery Babylon the Great, the mother of abominations of the earth. That Mystery Babylon, as we pointed out earlier, is not a mystery, Babylon, but it is Mystery Babylon. That's the title. And if you look at the Greek, the word is mysterion, which means hidden or secret. It's not Babylon, as we know it in Iraq. It is a mystery, a hidden, a secret Babylon. But it is Babylon nonetheless, and we know who it is and where it is because it says it's founded on a city of 7 hills. And it's also in the prophecy at the very last verse of Revelation chapter 17. said it is a city. So we know it's a city, and we know that it is full, it's a harlot. It is a prostituted religious system. And this religious system believes itself to be a queen and will never know a loss of children or a bad time. Always going to be good times wherever this place is. Now, we'll get more into that in just a moment, but now we need to define what Babylon really means in Scripture. And if I were just to say the word Babylon, something would come in your head. Babylon? Oh, that's a city in Iraq, or used to be a city in Iraq. But it's also a country. Because Babylon, remember, the head of gold, that was the empire of Babylon. So Babylon is a region of the world. It's a city. It's also a religious system. The Mystery Babylon is really a religious system. And it's a political system, too. And we know from the Scripture that whatever Babylon is, all that it is going to be destroyed. And it's going to be destroyed at a particular time. And according to the book of Revelation and others, it's going to happen during the tribulation period. And we know from Isaiah, which we'll read here shortly, and Jeremiah, it occurs at the time of the vengeance of God, which is another way of saying the tribulation. There is a question that has been around for a long time in prophetic circles, and that question is, will Babylon, a city in Iraq, be rebuilt before the tribulation? Because if you're not careful, and you read passages in Jeremiah 50:51, Isaiah 47, Isaiah 13, you come to the conclusion that Babylon has to be rebuilt because it's got to be destroyed. But you've got to be careful. Which Babylon are we talking about? So I want to clear the air on this subject, and I don't know of anybody else that's picked up on this, and I'm going to ask you to help me as we go through and try to make sense out of this to see if I'm reading far here. So what we're going to do is we're going to compare Revelation 17 and 18 with Isaiah 47, and we're going to identify who the daughter of Babylon is, and then we're going to take that information and we're going over to Jeremiah 50 and 51, and see what we can come up with. Now I want to read for you the passage in Isaiah 47. Now remember what we read back in Revelation 17 and 18. Remember the nature of this entity that the prophecy was directed at. Come, sit down in the dust, O virgin daughter of Babylon. Sit on the ground. There is no throne, O daughter of the Chaldeans, for thou shalt be no more called tender and delicate. Take the millstone, grind the meal, uncover the locks, make bare the leg, uncover the thigh, pass over. Now if you look at that word in the Hebrew, one of the synonyms for pass over is immigrate or leave one's country. And pass over or immigrate from the rivers. The rivers in this context, I believe, would be the Tigris and Euphrates. Thy nakedness shall be uncovered, yea, thy shame shall be seen, and I will take vengeance, and I will not meet thee as a man. So here we got a lot of interesting stuff. Whoever this prophecy is directed at, it's called the daughter of Babylon, or the daughter of the Chaldeans. Now what's the difference between the Chaldeans and Babylon? Who are the Chaldeans anyway? That was kind of the ruling class, wasn't it? Or the mystical class of Babylon. So anyway, it's a synonym, basically. And so the thing we get here is that whoever she is, she's supposed to leave wherever she's at. And this is going to occur at a time that says, when I take vengeance, that is the time of the tribulation period. As for our Redeemer, the Lord of hosts is his name, the Holy One of Israel. Sit in silence and get thee into darkness, O daughter of the Chaldeans, for thou shalt be no more called the Lady of the Kingdoms. What did Revelation called Mystery Babylon? It was a female, right? She was a harlot. I was wroth with my people, and I have polluted my inheritance, and given them into thy hands, and thou didst show them no mercy. Upon the ancient hast thou laid a very heavy yoke. And thou didst say, I will be a lady forever, or a queen forever. So thou didst not lay these things to thy heart, neither didst thou remember the latter end of it. Therefore, hear this. Thou art given to pleasures and dwellest carelessly, and sayest in thy heart, I am, and none else beside me. I shall not sit as a widow, neither know loss of children. But these two things shall come upon thee in a moment, in one day, the loss of children and widowhood. And they shall come upon thee in their perfection, for the multitude of thy sorceries, and for thy great abundance of thine enchantments. Now, I sit not as a widow, neither shall I know loss of children. This sounds like she is pretty confident, whoever she is, and that she has a progeny that will never be lost, and that the prophecy is that in one moment, one day, all these things are going to end, and both widowhood and loss of children are going to happen in one day. What was the prophecy in Revelation regarding Mystery Babylon? How long was it going to take for her to be destroyed? 1 hour. So here are the common characteristics of Mystery Babylon and the daughter of Babylon. They both consider themselves to be a queen. They claim that they will never be a widow and no loss of children. They reign over the kingdoms of the earth. They have many sorceries. And they will be destroyed in one day, 1 hour, by the vengeance of God. What I'm telling you here is, Mystery Babylon and the daughter of Babylon, they be the same guy or girl. All the evidence is pointing to it. Now, Mystery Babylon, Revelations 18:7, how much she hath glorified herself and lived deliciously. So much torment and sorrow give her, for she hath said in her heart, I sit as a queen. I am no widow, and I shall see no sorrow. Sure sounds like the same gal. And the woman which thou sawest is that great city which reigneth over the kings of the earth. Well, that's Mystery Babylon and the daughter of Babylon. And the light of the candle shall shine no more at all in thee, and the voice of the bridegroom and of the bride shall be heard no more at all in thee, for thy merchants were great men of the earth, and for by thy sorceries were all the nations deceived. What's that word for sorcery, Steve?
Greek word for sorcery? I can't think of it.
Pharmakia.
Oh.
And what does that, where do we get that word
Pharmacy.
Huh?
Pharmacy, apotheke.
Yeah. That's where we get the word for drugs. Isn't it interesting that Mystery Babylon, by her sorceries, deceived the nations? Well, it's by her drugs and drug abuse and so forth. Now, here's what I challenge you to do. Go online. Type in heroin in the Vatican Bank.
What's one?
Heroin or cocaine and the Vatican Bank, and you will find that in the top 10 of the most used banks for laundering dirty drug money, you'll find the Vatican Bank. Ranks number 8. And the reason they do that so confidently is that, well, who audits the Vatican Bank? They are independent.
God does.
They allow nobody to come in and
God
audit
does.
them. Huh?
God does.
No, God will, yeah. He will audit them and find them lacking in a lot of ways. But the Vatican Bank is dirty, really dirty. And so, in fact, if you get the book, you can find it online on Amazon. It's called In God's Name. And in there, that is a documentary of the death of John Paul I. Remember, John Paul I lived 33 days as Pope. And Malachi Morgay's little snippet about him was that he lives from the half of the moon, or words to that effect. He was Pope during the half phase of the moon, and a half phase of the moon, he died. Well, he didn't die, he was murdered. He was murdered by the P2 branch of the Freemasons. And if you get the book, In God's Name, it's all there. It is really interesting. Huh?
I'm curious. I wonder where things got off track. Because they weren't at one time corrupt. I mean,
What do you mean? Who's?
how
What
did
was?
they become, no, just the Vatican itself, how did they become corrupt from where was
From the
origin of
very
corruption?
beginning, the admonition in Revelation 17 and 18 is that she holds on her hands the blood of the saints. Pope John, which I can't give you the exact time when he came into existence, ordered the king of, I believe it was Spain, could have been Portugal, he ordered them, sent an order, and even minted a coin that said words to the effect of, you've got Hussites out there, and they are heretics, and you need to go out and kill every last one of them, because they have this bizarre notion that all men are created equal. So we're going to go out and kill them all. Well, and they did. They did a fine job. Killed 30,000 in one day, and over a period of months, 500,000 or so. They have more blood on them from the outset than any other organization. Yes?
So you're saying it started with Satan?
Satan, absolutely.
That's the answer.
Well, the answer is Satan. And anytime you get an organization on this planet, unless you're very careful, Satan and his cohorts will be in there in a heartbeat. And if you look at particularly the region around the Tigris and Euphrates River, can you think of a time in history in which that area has been at peace, either with itself or with the neighbors in the region? Well, there's a reason for that. Because what do we hear in Daniel? The angel that was coming to give a prophecy to Daniel,
Prince of Persia delayed it 21 days.
yeah, he got delayed 21 days by the Prince of Persia. And who was the Prince of Persia? Well, whoever he was, he's some sort of a demonic force, and apparently a high-level demonic force, and he influences that region of the world. And I think you'll find that almost every, if not every country in the world has a certain demonic influence in it. And we don't escape in our country either. Because here we have laws being enacted that, well, how many million babies have we aborted in the last few years? All legal. And remember, that used to be a horrible thing, but now it's called a woman's health issue. It's just a health issue. And other things that we have done in this country that are just, absolutely against the scripture, but yet now our nation is accepting them. Gay marriage, for one. And it just goes on and on and on. And so, to me, these are all signs that we're getting very close to the end. And that's one of the things we want to keep track of now, because I believe we are right at the end, and not years away, but months away. And like I said, if you go online and type in the words, what is it? CIA Project Prophecy, and read what this guy has to say about the finance situation of the United States. If your hair wasn't gray and curly before, it will be. So, and this guy, and the interesting thing about him is he believes that this economic disaster that's headed for the United States is going to occur and he said within 6 months. I think it's more like 7 months, but we will see. So, the times, they are getting close. So, at any rate, Mystery Babylon, the daughter of Babylon, and standing afar off in fear of their torment, saying, Alas, alas, the great city Babylon, that mighty city, for in 1 hour her judgment came. The Mystery Babylon, the city, and the daughter of Babylon, their end is the same, in 1 day, 1 hour, one short period of time. Now, if you can make that leap, the daughter of Babylon is not Babylon the country. It's not Babylon the empire. It is Babylon, the city. So Mystery Babylon, the daughter of Babylon, is a city. And now I want to try to distinguish between her and the land of Babylon. Now, the prophet Jeremiah, he has all sorts of dire predictions about Babylon. In his chapters 50 and 51, you start out with this. The word of the Lord spake against Babylon, the land of the Chaldeans, by Jeremiah the prophet. Okay, from here on, who is the prophecy directed against? Is it against Babylon the city? It's very clear right up front. We're talking about the land. The land of the Chaldeans, which is nothing more than ancient Babylon. Now, let me read, before we go, let me read you just some of the first part of Jeremiah, chapter 50. So you can kind of get a feel for what the prophecy is all about. I don't want to read all of it because these are two really long chapters. You might want to read them at your leisure. Okay, we've read the first one. Declare and proclaim among the nations, lift up a standard, do not conceal it, but say, Babylon has been captured. Babylon who? Babylon the country, Babylon the land. Bel has been put to shame. Who's Bel? Bel. That's Baal, really. It is a god, the god of the Babylonians. Marduk, another name for that god, has been shattered. Her images have been put to shame. Her idols have been shattered. For a nation has come up against her out of the north, and it will make her an object of horror, and there will be no inhabitant in it. Both man and beast have wandered off and gone away. In those days and at that time, declares the Lord, the sons of Israel will come, both they and the sons of Judah as well, and they will go along weeping as they go, and it will be the Lord God that they will seek. And so, here's, let me skip over here. This is in verse 20 of 50. It says, and in those days and at that time, declares the Lord, search will be made for the iniquity of Israel, but none will be found. For those sins of Judah, they will not be found. And I will pardon those whom I leave as a remnant. And in verse 25, the Lord has opened his armory and has brought forth weapons of his indignation. For it is the work of the Lord of hosts in the land of the Chaldeans. Once again, this time is the time of his indignation, which is another word for the time of his vengeance, which is another word for the tribulation period. And you read on here and you find out, without exception, and I challenge you to find an exception, we're talking about the land of Babylon. We're not talking about the city. But now, if you'll skip over to Jeremiah 50 and verse 40, got this on the slide or not? Well, we'll go a little out of sequence here. But if you go over to Jeremiah 51 and start with verse 41, let's read this very carefully. Behold, a people are coming from the north, a great nation, and many kings will be aroused. Where? From the remote parts of the earth. Now, this, when we saw this, I don't know, we haven't done Ezekiel in here, have we?
Yeah.
No, shucks. Well, in Ezekiel 38, it talks about a people that are coming from the uttermost parts of the north. And it calls them Rosh, Meshech, and Tubal, or actually the head chief prince of Meshech and Tubal. And Bible prophecy nuts such as me equate Meshech with the root word of the word Moscow, and Tubal as the root of the word of another major city in Russia, Tobolsk. And so when you say uttermost parts of the north, there ain't no nation further north than Russia. Because if you go any further north, what do you run into? You run into the North Pole, and then you're going south. So when it talks about the uttermost parts of the north, I think we're talking about Russia here. And they seize their bow and javelin. They are cruel. They have no mercy. Their voice roars like the sea. They ride on horses. What do the Cossacks ride on? Horses. And they are marshaled like a man for battle against you, O daughter of Babylon. Okay, there we got the daughter of Babylon mentioned. And who's coming for her? From the uttermost parts of the north, probably Russia. So here we have the daughter of Babylon mentioned, and what's mentioned about her is, and distinguishes her from the land, which we'll see in a minute, is the fact that those who come for her coming from the north. Now, I want you to skip over to Jeremiah 51. And now it reads, starting with verse 1, Thus the Lord says, Behold, I'm going to arouse against Babylon and against the inhabitants of Leb-Kamai, which is another word for Babylon, and I shall dispatch foreigners to Babylon, and they may winnow her and devastate her land. For on every side they will be opposed to her in the day of her calamity. And then it goes on, I'm going to skip a few verses, Flee from the midst of Babylon. What was the admonition in Revelation 18? Revelation 18, it said, Come out of her, my people. So, at any rate, come out of her, my people. For this is the time of the Lord's vengeance. Babylon has been a golden cup in the hand of the Lord. And I'm going to skip down to 11. Sharpen the arrows, fill the quivers, for the Lord has aroused the spirit of the kings of the Medes. And because his purpose is against Babylon to destroy it, for it is the vengeance of the Lord, the vengeance for his temple. The point to carry away here is, who's coming after Babylon the land? The kings of the Medes. Who are the Medes? Modern day Kurds. These are the Medes. Now look at the way the world is falling into place right here. This prophecy has been around for a long time. The Medes, or the Kurds, are going to come against Iraq, which is modern day Babylon. Yeah.
Where are the Kurds located now? I'm not good on geography.
The Kurds, they have... It's northern Iraq. Do you know where Erbil is? Yeah, well, Erbil. It is in the far northern part of Iraq, to the north and kind of to the east.
Kind of separate the two, I think.
Yeah, there's kind of a mountain. There are mountains up there. I was there, and it's a region that it's quite easily defended. Well, easily defended. It's not real easily defended. I mean, Saddam killed thousands of them just by dropping mustard gas on them and everything. But you can see what's happened here. If there is a nation in the world who has animosity against the modern day Iraqi people, it's the Kurds. And when I was there, I actually shook hands with Barjani, who is the president of the Kurdish Republic, they call themselves. And when you fly in there, it's like flying into another country. They do not acknowledge Iraq at all. They consider themselves another country. And Barjani, while I was there, I heard through the grapevine, called up George Bush, and he said, if you'll give me 3 weeks and a few tanks and a few some ammunition, I will take the Peshmerga. We will go down into Iraq, and we will take care of your problem down there for you. Won't cost you any U.S. blood. And George turned him down, which was, I thought, a shame. We would have saved a lot of folks if we'd turned them loose. But of course, that wasn't the right time. The right time isn't yet. But during the tribulation, I'll guarantee you, those Kurds are going to come down and they are going to take care of Babylon. And when they get through with it, there won't be anybody living there ever again. So now, where was I? If you read on through here, you find some interesting stuff in here. The portion of Jacob is not like, this is 51:19. The portion of Jacob is not like these, for For the maker of all is he, and the tribe of his inheritance. For the Lord of hosts is his name. He says, and you'll find that he's saying this to the descendants of Jacob. And who is Jacob? His name was changed to Israel, right? So Israel is my war club, my weapon of war. With you I will shatter nations, destroy kingdoms, shatter horses and riders, chariots and riders, men, women, and down the line. And who did we decide Israel really was in the end of the age? Maybe Great Britain and the United States. And if you look at that, what nation in the world has been the policeman who has literally shattered nations? And what was the admonition that went out to them? Those who bless you, I will bless. Those who curse you, I will curse. What happened to Japan after World War II? Did they curse the United States? Not really. When we went over there, they were in awe of the United States. And when MacArthur was traveling down the roads in Japan after the war, all of the guards that were guarding would turn their back as he passed. And he thought they were dissing him, when in fact, in Japan, they were showing humility toward him. And the whole country showed humility. And they allowed us to show them how to develop a democracy. And what happened to Japan? Well, they're one of the success stories in the world. Now, contrast that with what happened to Iran, who took our embassy hostage for a year better, wasn't it? I remember seeing on the news, this is day 324 of the Iranian hostage crisis. Well, they embarrassed the United States, didn't they? What happened immediately after that? Immediately after that, they went into war with Iraq, and they lost over 1 million people during that war. I mean, it was a curse to them, no question about it. So I'm just pointing out a little more evidence that seems to support the notion that, well, maybe in the end times, if you're looking for Israel, you might want to look to the descendants of Ephraim and Manasseh. Okay, now we're moving on here. And I want to get over to 33, because right up now, we're talking about, we're going to make the land of Babylon a waste and a desolation. And then you get up to 33, and 33 reads, there it is. My computer and the internet I've got at house is awful. At any rate, for thus saith the Lord of hosts, the God of Israel, the daughter of Babylon is like a threshing floor. And it is the time it is time to thresh her. Yet a little while, and the time of harvest will come for her. How do you see this passage? We're talking about Babylon, Babylon the land, and then all of a sudden we get to this passage, and we're talking about the daughter of Babylon, and it sounds like, well, yeah, we're going to get her too, but that's a little later on. If you read the scripture. So I'm just offering to you the observation that daughter of Babylon and the land of Babylon seem to be two different entities, both with the same prophecy, but a little different. And now Jeremiah 50, 41 and 42, behold, a people shall come from the north, and a great nation, many kings raised from the coast of the earth, and we already went over this one. These are those who are coming from the uttermost parts of the north. So, who comes to attack Babylon, the country? The kings of the Medes. These are what's coming. And there's another passage. Let me if I got it up here. Behold, I will stir up the Medes against them, which will not regard silver or gold, and shall not delight in it, and their bows shall dash their young men to pieces, and they shall have no pity on the fruit of the womb, and their eyes shall not spare children. And Babylon, the glory of kingdoms, the beauty of Chaldeans, excellent shall be as when God overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah. Are they that way now? No, they're not overthrown. You can run around Babylon. You can run around Iraq. It's not like Sodom and Gomorrah. By the way, what does Sodom and Gomorrah look like today? You can't hardly find anything of it. But they have found in recent archaeological digs a place that looks like it could be Sodom and Gomorrah. And one of the things they have found in the region is vitrified sulfur. You know what that is? Well, sulfur, if you heat it up to about 300 degrees, it becomes molten. And when you heat it up and then let it cool down, it forms a vitrification or a solid. But what that tells you is that, and these, by the way, were found all around this area, that something hit that area with a temperature greater than 300 degrees, because if they dig back into those structures, they find the structures are burnt. And you got this vitrified sulfur in there. And then on another, I believe it was a Discovery Channel, they found one of these, well, it's a device in which the ancients used to plot events that happened in the heavens. I think they called it a planescape or something like that. But at any rate, it was a symbol of the sky with all of the stars in it, and a line coming down across the heavens with certain stars, and they've decoded that as there must have been a comet that came back. And in the region that they found it, they determined that if you put that planescape up, that would indicate a comet or some device from the heavens landed in the region of where we know Sodom and Gomorrah to be. So it's like those angels that hit Sodom and Gomorrah. They used a comet to do it, and probably in that comet they had sulfur, because in the whole region around this place there was vitrified sulfur. So, interesting story. No extra charge. Okay, the Medes are coming against Babylon the country. And they are going to destroy it absolutely. Okay. And the sound of cry come from Babylon, from the land of the Chaldeans. Once again, it's the land of the Chaldeans, not the daughter of Babylon. Now, this is an interesting statement. The mighty men of Babylon have forborne to fight. They have remained in their holes, and their might fails. They have become as women. They have burned her dwelling places, and her bars are broken. Do you recall what happened? You know, we armed Iraq. We trained her troops. We gave them our absolute best equipment. I think we left even an M1 or two M1A1 tanks there, a few of them. And what happened? The first time that they were attacked by ISIS, they all ran away. They left their trucks, they left their tanks, they just ran away. And they were totally embarrassed, but you know why? Because God has made them like that. They won't fight. They are fearful. They are cowardly. Now, I had a friend, his name was Dr. Warren Cheney. He's a Hollywood producer, director, writer, and he was with the CIA during the invasion of 10 minutes? Okay, well, I'll cut it short. He was with the CIA during the time when Egypt launched attack against Israel. He was over there. I guess it was the, 67 war, Yom Kippur War. And he said that, and he's got all kinds of anecdotes of things that happened that absolutely are miraculous. He was telling me the story of a taxi cab running down through the Sinai. Had one old man in it with a pistol. And the taxi cab runs up against basically a school bus full of Egyptian troops. And the old man stops the taxi cab, school bus stopped, all of the troops jump out of the school bus and are fixing to get this guy. He walks out with his pistol, aims it up in the air, and demands that they all surrender. I mean, you talk about the height of audacity. And guess what? They all surrendered. They were scared. Later on, they were interviewed, and they said, we couldn't move. We were petrified.
Are you sure they're not French?
Let me check into that.
Well, just because you coward, not.
And then he said, on the border of between, well, I guess it was the Golan Heights, they didn't have any tanks that got there in time, and they had one old man with a shotgun and a .22 pistol. And they said, here comes the road from Damascus. And they said, you defend that until we can get some tanks here. Can you imagine? And so he sat there on top of a house watching with his shotgun and his .22 caliber pistol. And he sees a formation of Syrian fighters coming over, and they were flying right over him. And as they fly over, he shoots off his shotgun. He hits the lead fighter, which disintegrates and wipes out the whole formation. One shot with his shotgun and took out the whole flight of Syrian fighters. And you say, that can't happen. Well, yeah, it can't. Unless you're fighting with God's people, and he happens to have a spare angel or two working for you.
We're up on Golan Heights 12 years ago in Patna, Israel. We talked to the main major guy that ran the whole shop, and the Syrians were coming up, and he had his people, but they only had 30 people, 30 soldiers, and there's 800 and some Syrians coming up. And they fired a couple of shots, and they all took off. The Syrians took off. And later on, the guy actually met one of the Syrian soldiers. Said, "Why'd you guys take off?" "We thought we heard tens of thousands of tanks and everything. This is God making
Scared them to death."
And he swear that happened today.
Yeah, and you don't ever hear that in the media, because the media at the time was they wanted to take credit. They thought, the United States, we helped Israel, and because of our prowess and our expertise and our military equipment, we saved the day for Israel. And they even intercepted a phone call from, who was it? Whoever the emir of Jordan was, and I think it was it Nasser? And they were talking back and forth, and they were saying, our people are going to rise up and kill us because we've just gotten whipped by the Israelis. I tell you what, let's do. Let's say that the United States intervened, and that's why we lost, so we can keep our heads. And the Israelis happened to have tapped into the line, and they recorded the message. But of course, that never makes the news because that doesn't fit the profile of the mainstream media. Well, at any rate.